from FF Design Studio 66. This morning we're going to have a bit of a chat about alcohol inks. First off, we'll deal with some safety things around it, and then we'll go from there. So, a mask. Mask is very important to use when you're playing with alcoholics because it's a vapour. So you need something that is designed to filter out really fine vapours and things. So this is the main one that I use. It has 2 filters on it. These 2 are safety precautions as well. This one's great. I can't remember the price. I did buy it a number of years ago, but I will say that you'll probably have this available in most of your Bunnings or hardware stores. Great product. Use it all the time. The next couple of products I do use, depending on what I'm doing. This one here was one I actually brought off Temu, I do believe. I think it was Temu anyway. It might have been off Facebook Marketplace. This one protects not only your breathing but also your eyes. So I've noticed that since using alcohol inks over the years and not using eye protection when like this, I found that I've got dry eyes these days from it, and it could be an age-related thing, but I'm not 100% sure. So now I try and wear this one as often as possible because I don't like having dry eyes. It's quite painful. So I highly recommend something like that as well, or the other style of mask, this style of mask. You can also get it that has a face shield on it as well. I would highly recommend something like that if you're going to be using alcohol inks long term. This is another sort that I use occasionally. If I'm doing a video or if I'm teaching face-to-face, I don't wear a mask. The reason being is that people quite often can't hear me properly, or they need to see, some people just need to see your mouth moving so that they can read what you're saying. And I get that because I'm a bit like that myself. So I don't wear a mask often when I'm teaching and stuff, but I do make sure that there's another few safety precautions that we can take so that when we're using the alcohol inks, we're not getting into any sort of trouble. Number one is good ventilation. So whether you're inside or outside, making sure if you're outside, it's great. You're really quite covered. If you're inside, a good fan going, an extraction fan, and windows open are all great options. So I do use an extraction fan. This is my one. It cost me about $100. I bought it online, and it's got filters on the inside. This one was classed as, just let me have a look, I think it was a solder smoke absorbent bench fan, it's called. And I brought this not so very long back, and I found it great. It's a great product to use. So that pretty much covers all of that, apart from wearing gloves. I don't wear gloves very often, depending on what I'm making. If it's something that I know I want to use my hands on, then I'll wear gloves. But regardless, either way, I always end up with a little bit of alcohol and inks on my hands. I'm not too bothered by it. I just make sure I wash it off as soon as I can. Just one of those soft nail brushes and a bit of soap and water will normally just take the ink off. I've not had too many problems with that. Now let's move on to supplies that we use when playing with alcohol inks. First of all, let's cover some paper. So I've got a few different sorts here. So this is a Couture Creations brand paper, which is an Australian company. I think they're based in Melbourne. They used to be here in Queensland. So this is essentially UPO paper. I think they call it craft plastic now, something along those lines. I'm not sure. I know there was a name change because UPO, which is a brand name, didn't like them using that. So this is a white and this is a black in the Couture Creations brand. Both good products, have their fors and against, and we'll get into that later on down the track. The next paper that I use quite a lot of, now this is Graphics Craft Plastic. I've got it in the black and I've also got it in the white. Oops, not over the right way. I've got it in the white. Sorry about bumping that. Yeah, I do like this plastic to work with, and there's a couple of reasons why, which we'll go into that a little bit later on. Yeah, so highly recommend either product, and it will be dependent on what you want to do, how experienced you are with the product. And then there's another product, which I don't know where I've put my Yupo pad. I do have a pad, and that's the Yupo brand paper that I also have, but I'm not sure where I've got it. I couldn't find it before when I went and had a look. So they are, so we've done the safety, we've done the surface that we can work on. Some other surfaces that you can use is, this is just a little offcut of vinyl. So vinyl you can use tiles. I highly recommend, if you're just starting out with alcohol inks, I highly recommend tiles. The slick surface on the tiles gives you beautiful results and is a lot easier to manipulate until you get used to how the inks and that move and work. The other good thing about a tile, and also the craft plastic, which is that graphics one, is that both of those products you can throw some isopropyl alcohol on there. If you don't like what you'd made, put the alcohol on there and wipe it clean with a cloth of some sort. So that side of it is really, really cool. So essentially, any sort of non-porous surface you can use with alcohol inks. There is a couple of exceptions. So I've seen some people use canvas boards, and from my understanding of some of them, they don't prime the canvas at all. So they're just doing it directly onto the canvas. It gives a very muted look. Not a big fan, personally. I have done some work on canvas myself to test some of it out. I highly recommend using a spray water-based enamel to prime your canvas with. You probably have to do a few coats just to get a nice even surface and coverage on the actual canvas, because the first layers can sometimes be absorbed into the canvas itself because it's porous. So that is another good tip. There's also another one called bins, BIN 123, I want to say. That is actually a primer, which would make your canvas non-porous as well. I've not used it. I have got a friend who has used it. When she showed me the results, I was a bit underwhelmed by the results. So it's not something that I would buy. It sort of ranges in price from about $35 up to $190 for that product. Not one that I use. So that covers all of our surfaces. The next thing we use is isopropyl alcohol. So this one's a Digger's brand. It doesn't have the percentages on it, but I'm pretty sure this is, let me have a look. I'm going to say this is probably around the 95 to 100% isopropyl alcohol. It doesn't have anything else on there. It's one that I've used for a very long time and found it works really well. So this bottle was actually brought from Bunnings, the Digger brand. I'm not sure whether Bunnings stock isopropyl alcohol in these anymore. They used to have this size, and I think a 1 litre size as well. Another product that we use is alcoholic blending solution. So this is just a Couture Creations brand one. Tim Holtz has a brand of it, and there's obviously other ones on the market as well, which would also have their brand of blending solution. These two products probably work very similar to each other. This one I find can sometimes leave your work a little bit sticky. And I'm not sure whether it's because of the blending solution or whether it's the inks themselves, because the inks can be a little sticky as well if they're not dried properly. Isopropyl alcohol, on the other hand, is not as sticky, I find. So, and it's a cheaper option. If you're yeah, it's just a cheaper option. That's all I can really say about it. And I like the way that it moves. It's the product that I use the most. Next thing we're going to look at is some inks. So today we've got a few different inks we're going to be using. So we're using sepia, ginger, and sienna, and caramel, perhaps. So that's on one lot. And then on the other lot, I've got stream, watermelon, and dandelion. Now, all of the ones that I'm using today are all Ranger inks. In saying that, Couture Creations have alcohol inks as well, and that's an Australian company. Their inks are okay. They're not as pigmented as the Tim Holtz ones. Their Pearl Gold is one that I really, really enjoy using if I'm wanting that gold fleck to come through things. I find it probably one of the better ones that I've used. I've used the Brass from Pinata. I've used Tim Holtz's gold. I use Metallics range, and the Couture Creations gold is one that I come back to all the time. Let's talk about Pinata next. So Pinata inks are very, very good inks. They're very, very highly pigmented. I find that with the Pinata inks, you are best off to dilute them down a bit first. So I normally have this size little bottle. I'm not sure, 50 or 100. I don't even think it'd be 100 mils. It'd be about 50 mils, I'd say these are. And normally I will do, depending on the colour, so each colour will vary in the depth of colour that you get from them. And so adding alcohol to them will thin down the colour and obviously make it lighter. So depending on what kind of look you're looking for, you'll use more or less alcohol. So I do that occasionally with Pinata inks because I do find them very heavily pigmented. A couple of other things that we're going to go through. I'm just going to show you a couple of projects next. Oh, no, here we go. We've got tools next. So let's look at the tools that we can use. So I need to get this one unstuck from there. Excuse me a minute. That's it. Okay. So this is an airbrush. It's connected to a small air compressor underneath my desk. This is my favourite airbrush, believe it or not. It's one I use all the time if I'm going to be alcohol inking. Let's talk about these puffers. Now, this one was one that I bought online. It was very cheap. It was only about $5 or $6. And they use it for cleaning the lens on your cameras. So this is essentially a lens cleaner. Not a big fan of this one. I see a lot of people still use this one. Not my thing. It's quite easy on your hands, this one, as opposed to this one. But I found that I couldn't get a lot of control in the direction that I push my inks in with this one. So that's one option. This one is Couture Creations hand blower. It's good. It's a nice compact thing. But what I find, this is really good for fine detail. So if I'm doing a flower and the centre of it I'm wanting to give those centre petals a little bit shorter, this one's the one that I would go for. That being said, this puffer, if you have any problems with your hands, it's going to be a little bit difficult to use because I find that after a short amount of time of using it, my hands start to play up. So whilst I still use it, and I use it for more detailed stuff, so I don't use this one all the time like I used to anymore. So, yep, so that one we will put aside. This one is the Tim Holtz one. This is probably my favourite one out of the three of them, mainly because this still gives you a bit of control over where the inks go. And depending on how much pressure you put when you're puffing it, so if you do a short spat, it'll move in a smaller distance. If you use it in a big one, it'll move in a bigger distance. So I do like this one. This one's much more, it's much easier on your hands. It's not as hard as the Couture Creations one. So, yeah, this one is the one I highly recommend. Detail stuff, this one I just don't use. I don't like it. So it's up to you. You might like this one. Like I said, there's other people out there that do use it. But overall, my preference is the airbrush because I don't have to use anything else. So a few other things that we can use. We'll just get into these for a minute. This thing is called a Fantastix. I brought this from, I want to say Amazon maybe. I know I brought it online. This is great for lifting up the inks, or if you've put something in a spot you didn't like, this thing works great. So you just dip it into your alcohol and then wipe up what you didn't want on there. We're going to come back to this one and a couple of other ones for a couple of different reasons. So all of these, if you're using UPO, especially the Couture Creations UPO, it's like, it must have a different core and then they've put the plastic over the top of it. So if you make a mistake and you're lifting up ink and you rub too much in one spot, it's like as if the plastic itself has actually come off the paper. And what that does is it means that the ink will not flow over that spot anymore. Like I said, I do use UPO paper and I do use the Couture Creations one sometimes as well. The other thing about those two paper, and so UPO paper will also do that as well. So you do need to be a little bit gentle and a little bit careful about what you're doing. Hence why the Graphics Craft Plastic is probably my favourite choice overall. There is another paper on the market, but I can no longer get it. It was called S-Link paper. I still have some. It's another one that's really fabulous to work with, like the craft plastic. Everything comes back off it. I do believe Nara is another paper brand. I think it's from India. I'm not sure how much the Nara is, and I'm not sure whether we can get it here in Australia or not at this stage. I've heard a lot of good reports about it, but it is quite expensive, was the other side of it that I heard. So that's that. You can also use the watercolour brushes that have that you can put the water inside the pen. They are really good to put your alcohol into to wipe up messes as well. You can do that, and I think Ranger also has an alcohol ink pen where you put it's got two different, it's thinner and a thicker piece, one end each, and you put the alcohol in it, like the blending solution or the isopropyl, and you can use that to lift as well. Paintbrushes. Next, let's look at paintbrushes. So I use soft bristled brushes. So essentially most of these brushes are either watercolour brushes. They do get quite dry using them in the alcohol inks, so you don't want expensive ones. You just want some cheap ones, and you want some of different sizes. I predominantly use smaller size brushes, and we'll get to that a bit later on. Essentially what happens is if you've got too much alcohol or too much ink on your brush, it's going to spread in a bigger area. So it's one of those things that you have to get a feel for, so it takes a little bit of time of playing with it to get that feel for it. A couple of other bits we can use is cotton tips. Also another fabulous thing to use in alcohol inks. You can do many things with them, and I'm sure that we'll go through over the course of the next few weeks. We'll go through a few different things with these as well. And the next one, these are dental sticks, I believe they're called. Now they come in 3 different sizes. This purple size is my favourite size to use. Now I essentially use these for dotting. So when I use Snow Cap, I believe it's called, from Ranger, that's my favourite one to use. I normally stick it on the bottom of one of my little ramekins. You see this one's had it on there. So I normally tip it on there, and the texture, as the alcohol starts to evaporate out of it, it becomes a little bit sticky, and you get these fabulous texture marks on your work when you use it. And that'll be another video that we will do eventually down the track, looking at how that works. So they are dental sticks, and I think that's as far as we've got with that. So let's look at a couple of other things that we can do. We might do a little bit of a project now. Where did I put that tape? Here it is. Okay, so I've just got some baking paper. Shiny side, flat side. Don't think it really matters which side you use. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some cello tape. I can find the end of it. This one's not being very helpful today. Okay, let's try the other one first and see how we go with this one. Yeah, there it is. So this one is just some, I'm going to say 2-inch packing tape. So we'll put 2 of these down. Let's put those ones down there. Grab some scissors. Just going to chop that off there. Let's do one of them down here. A little left to do. Okay, let me just move this one a little bit. I'm not happy where that's sitting. Okay, let's see if I can find the end of this one now. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I'm going to do one here. Trim it off. I'm going to do one down here. The reason I'm putting two different lots on here is because I'm going to play around with a few different colour combinations. Okay, so that's our tape down. So if we're wanting to make some vintage tape, the colours that I normally use will be caramel and probably sepia. I'm not sure whether we'll use the sienna or the ginger. It depends on if I want a bit of red in there. So I've just got a disposable glove. And I just put this back in the drawer after I use it if I'm making something like this. So first off, we're just going to pop down a little bit of the caramel. As you can see, you don't need a lot of it. And now I'm going to put in a little bit of sepia. Now you can do this without adding alcohol to it if that's what you desire. And it will depend. If you want it to be a lighter colour than what we're getting here now, it's advisable to use a bit of alcohol. I'm quite happy with that colour. I'm going to do the same on this second one we've got here. As you can see, I'm not using very much of it at all. It's just a very small amount. Okay, and we'll do the same thing again. Now, a couple of other tools that I do use is a heat gun. But the thing you've got to remember with the heat gun when you're using it on this type of cello tape, I'm just taking this glove off, is that it will melt it. So you do need to think about that. So you've got to keep the heat moving and things. So I'm just going to use this puffer just to add a bit more oomph to it and just try and dry this out a bit quicker. Let's see how that's going. No, I'll need to use the heat gun. So just block your ears for a minute because I'm not going to turn this off. Okay, so they're nice and dry now. As you can see, it doesn't take long for them to dry. And next we're going to do a little bit of stamping over the top of these. Hang on 2 seconds, I just got to get a stamping block. I've got that one. Okay, so for all intents and purposes, if you're just wanting tape with nothing on it, you've made your vintage looking tape and it's done. So you can pick it up, this one. And I'm hoping you can see there, that's quite translucent still. I'll pop this back down here. I'm not going to have mine quite like that. I'm actually going to do some stamping over mine because I like the effect that it gives. It's going to pick this one up as well. I didn't put enough on there. That's all right. To pick it up from this end. So there's a little bit gone underneath there, and that's okay. Okay, and so the next thing we're going to do, so I've got, this is Stampers Anonymous Tidbits, and also another Stampers Anonymous on Field Notes are the two that I'm going to be using. So and I'm going to use some Stays On ink to stamp over the top. So this is the part that always takes a little bit of time because I have to think about what I want to put on there. Yep, let's go this way. So this is the Stays On ink. It's a solvent base, but it doesn't tend to move the inks too much. There's probably other things that you could use. VersaFine Clear maybe would be a good idea. But I find this works quite well. Let's just put that down here. Okay, let's stamp off on the bottom. Okay, that's the first one. Maybe these numbers. So these are the number ones I'm going to use. I'm just going to see how it just sticks there just a little bit. You do have to be a little bit careful when you're stamping with this stuff. Okay, I'll do one more on that top one. Okay, and I'm just stamping off onto the bottom of this bit of baking paper that I'm using. Okay, we'll go over to the Field Notes. And use this butterfly. So some of this thinner tape, I haven't taken the ink all the way along, so I'm just going to stamp on the clear tape itself. That turned out quite nice. Okay, what else have we got? We won't use that. Other good stamps to use is like your postal stamps. I find they work really well on this kind of project. And I'm not worried if some of it's off the edge of the tape. That's perfectly fine as far as I'm concerned. So use this other number. So we've got 785. There we go. Okay, let's have a few notes. Maybe a word. Destination sounds like a good one. It's got a bit of a shadow to it, that one. It'll be fine. I'm not worried if I'm stamping over the top of anything else. That side doesn't sort of bother me too much. I'll use that one there. Okay, so that is essentially our vintage tape finished. So it's a very quick project, this one, but one that I use quite a bit in my day-to-day journaling stuff. So these are the other ones that I've made. So this one here was done on some masking tape, so it's not it's quite opaque. And this one, which is really dark and grungy, it was done on some brown packing tape. So just a few different bits and pieces. This one's the brown packing tape. You could add colour to this too. So if you've got a permanent ink that you want to use colour with, I used red in that one with the Memento ink. But let's move on to our next part of this. So now we have these two pieces. So this time, I'll use this one. What I'm going to do this time is I'm going to add some different colours and see what it looks like. There's some different colours. So we've got this sort of stream, it's called. It's a blue-green. Just hope I can get the lid off it. Yep, there we go. So we'll just put a few. Oh, that was a big drop. That's to there. Yep. Okay. So there's one of my inks have leaked. So this one's got some green of some sort, I think, over it. And I'll put a bit of this on. And we've got a bit of a red. But what I think I might do is I might do these ones first before we add in some red. Got to be a little bit careful with the red because we've got blue-green. Maybe we might use the red on the other one. We do this one a bit more yellow. So the other thing with this, you'll see now this has blended both those colours together and it's given you quite a bright green, which I'm not so happy about. But we will leave that for the time being. We're going to add, I want to add a little bit more yellow. By adding the yellow on the top, like I am, what happens is whichever colour or medium that you put on top, whether it be alcohol or whether it be alcohol inks, it will push the colour from underneath it and push it out into circles. So that's what I've just done there. And so we're going to, I think it's got that blue on it, so it's not going to be quite so good. We might have to do another one with the yellow. I'll just put down another piece of tape and we'll do a yellow and watermelon red colour. So this time we'll do the same thing. Let's add a little bit of the yellow over the top. And if you take notice, see how far the inks move? That's what I was saying to you before, you know, whatever, when you're using paintbrushes and stuff, you have to be really careful about the amount of ink and isopropyl alcohol that you use, because it will move like this. So if I was to now come in and put a drop of isopropyl alcohol on, it too will also move the ink from underneath. Because it's the one on top, it's actually now pushing this one back over to here, which is that yellow that's got the blue on the outside now. Okay, so we've done the same on this one. Excuse me. And now we're just going to grab some watermelon. If I can get it open. Yep, there we go. Sometimes you might need to give them a little bit of a helping hand. So another thing you can do, you can actually tip these from side to side just to help them move around a little bit. Where did I put those brushes? Yeah, just grab this little brush here. See how this one's gone a bit muddy on this end? That's because that the blue and the red have mixed together. Just going to wipe that off on here. I like this one. This one's looking pretty cool. Now this one's sort of getting that purpley colour coming through from that blue, green and the red. It's a pretty dirty, mucky sort of a colour. Another thing that you might be interested in grabbing hold of is these some little ramekins. So normally what I do is I normally have a ramekin with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol in it, just to wash out my brush in. And I'll try and wipe off as much as oops, as you can see I've just splattered isopropyl alcohol on there from my brush when it slipped off. And that's okay, it's a bit of a happy accident. So let's dry this one off and see what we've got. Okay, pop this over here. So you'll have to top this up at regular intervals because it will evaporate its alcohol. Yeah. So today I actually have my window open. I haven't got the fan on because everything blows around too much with it. I'm just going to grab this puffer and see if we can dry this off a little bit and just push it out the way. That end's okay. Just add a little bit of heat to that. That's still a little bit sticky, that one. It's got a little bit more ink on it. But these have turned out quite okay. I'm not sure how I'm going to use these colours yet. I haven't really thought about it. But you can see that these are still transparent even though they've got those colours on them. So whatever you lay it over the top of, you're still going to be able to see what's underneath, which is quite good to have at times. This one, let's see how we're going with the opacity in this one. There you go, even this one's still opaque. Not opaque, translucent. So anyway, that's where we're going to leave it. A little bit of care for your brushes. At the end of each session, I always clean out my brushes. I will quite often also have a little bit of paper towel or a cloth. This is the cloth that I normally use for it. And I just wipe my brushes off after I've done it. And if you get yourself a good brush cleaner, I can't think of the name of the ones that I use, but I do use a brush cleaner. I will give this a good wash beforehand before I put it away properly, and that's pretty much it. So as you can see, can do some really interesting quick projects with alcohol inks because they dry quite fast. I do love this vintage tape look that I've been making. I've actually made a fair bit of it recently. This coloured one, yeah, I'm not so happy with it. That's okay. It's I can probably wipe it off, to be honest with you. Let's give that a go before we get out of here today. Let's see. This is quite dark on this end. So I've just thrown on a fair amount of alcohol. And because the tape is plastic, yep, so I'm able to wipe that off if I really want to. So just pick that up so you can see. So obviously I haven't cleaned it off totally, but yeah, you can essentially wipe it off. So if you do something and you're not happy with it, by all means, throw a bit of alcohol on it and wipe it off. I'm not sure whether this one will come off, like so if you've stamped something and you didn't like it, let's give it a go. Just put a little drop on. Yep, it will also take some of that off. It'll take a little bit longer to get it off with the ink. So that stays on ink than what it was when it's just the alcohol ink. So I hope you've enjoyed this demonstration. Hope you have a go at it. This demonstration was created for Crafty Junkets Happy Mail Swap Australia. It is a Facebook group. Really fun group to be involved with. A really great bunch of people. Pop on over and subscribe to the channel. It's a lot of fun. I hope to see you in my next video and hope you're having a fantastic day. Bye.